and
So
breach.
okay, so what you're saying is that it goes back to your earlier point, which is the vulnerability scanner is just out of the box. They're not really simulating a real world scenario.
That's
What you're doing
correct.
is you're creating a simulation for a real world scenario, how a threat actor would behave. In your penetration testing, you're basically, yeah, you're simulating their actions. You're finding any vulnerabilities because of that, and then surfacing it up. I just want to be here, maybe just taking it in a different angle. Like, let's say all this is paired, you found out certain threats. Um, what's been the reaction that you have seen from most of the people? Who do you take it first? Is it to the business or is it more to the head of IT and of infrastructure? And I'll give you a reason why I'm asking that. Because I'm just trying to understand like who is the best emissary to share the bad news with the business. I'm just trying to understand like it is like, and how do people handle it, right?
Right.
Because it's like now saying, guys, we've had this vulnerability, we need to fix it. I'm also trying to understand the human context of it. Like, how does it happen in enterprises? How is that communicated back to the board? And how is the urgency, told to the board? Like, I think we need to fix this urgently. How's that communicated?
100%. Look, it's one simple answer to that. I'll go a bit on depth, but one simple answer to that is if my report cannot talk to a variety of people, it's not a good report.
Fantastic.
At the end
Okay.
of the day,
Got
that's
it.
the motto we
Yeah.
live with. I want to make sure everything that goes out has some context, gives some idea to almost every level. It may not work every 100% of the time because obviously different human beings, different thought processes.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to consolidate, and that's why we regularly update it as well and taking active feedback with our clients as well. Hey,
Okay.
how did it work out? But that's the short answer. The longer answer to that is a lot of the time we identify and try to get a hold of a point of contact at the customer end so that we know whom we can easily reach out, because if we don't know whom to reach out, it's hard.
No, that's a
right?
fair point. Yeah.
So we get a point of contact, and then if it's a very straightforward vulnerability, we're pretty much sure nothing really fancy, easy to fix, perfect, we just pass it on, even if it's a high severities. We pass it on to the point of contact, they pass it on to their development team or IT team, depending on whose responsibility it is. If it's an infrastructure related vulnerabilities, someone handling an infrastructure of the business would be the one looking into it. If it's a code level vulnerability in an application, it would be the development team going to be handling
Okay.
it. So there's going to be different stakeholders in there. And on top of that, what we do is when we are done with all the pen tests, identify all the vulnerabilities, we also give them something we call a vulnerability walkthrough.
Okay.
A walkthrough call goes on at least an hour, sometimes a little bit longer, depending on how many vulnerabilities and how complex things can be. Now, that report, as I initially shared, anyways has the high level details that a board potentially would want to hear about in order to come to a certain conclusion and decisions. It also has enough info for a CISO and maybe a director of security, head of security and whatnot to build their own business case out of it to talk to their boards.
Okay.
But also it also has very in-depth technical data for the actual team performing the remediation to work as well. And in that walkthrough call, we bring in our point of contact. We ask them to bring in their responsible people, which may sometimes include D-level, C-level people as well, as in CISOs or director of security, head of security as well. And on top of that, we also ask them, bring in your development team or IT team as well, who's responsible for fixing as well. Now, what we do in there is we start with trying to summarize it all, to try to share them what really happened, why, and how, what the state looks like. Because remember, penetration testing is not a scary report, despite of what people may think. It's a good thing because we're trying to identify and fix whatever we can in that point in time before a threat actor would exploit and breach you, right?
Yeah.
So it still is a good thing. So sometimes it may look bad, but it's a good thing because
No, it's a great proactive step. I'm kind of getting that now, that it's a great proactive step.
100% it is, right? So it's a good news from that perspective, so not really bad news. So we try to actually at least explain to them whenever it feels like the audience feels like, oh, they take it as a bad news, but we try to go in there and do it as also share them what are the good practices we have found, because it tells them like if we give them, hey, great stuff on this, but there's also issues here, and it's an easy fix. So we help them prioritize what needs to be fixed. We also help them identify, like, if you fix this, this is going to fix these other issues as well.